So next, and continuing the theme of well-being through community transformation, we're delighted to welcome Somava Saha, President and CEO of Wellbeing and Equity in the World, We in the World. Welcome back to Nova, Soma.
Thank you so much, Susan. And I have to say how deeply inspired I am by this grounded beginning that's grounded at every level, grounded at the level of the heart, grounded at the level of connection with one another, and an understanding of why we all need to be in this kind of work together, and grounded in an analysis of the system that understands that the well-being of people, the well-being of places, the well-being of planet are all interconnected. I'd love to, in this moment, add just the appreciation of that. Usually those are all things I have to lay groundwork for at the beginning. And you all, this is an amazing to be part of a community that really owns and holds that. So first of all, thank you for creating space for us to come together in community and shared wisdom. In our work, what we do at We in the World and in the Wellbeing in the Nation Network, which is where we bring together an unprecedented collaboration, one that's national and one that's global, of everybody across generations, across sectors, just as Stuart spoke about earlier, about what does it take to create an unprecedented collaboration that can actually change these things, that can get to critical mass to shift what's needed today, but to also create the pivotal changes to change our dominant narratives, our policies, our investments, all of that. And as we've come together, what we've been paying a lot of attention to is who is getting to define that? How are we defining that? And as we've done that together in a grassroots to grass tops collaboration of thousands of people and built systems for those at the grassroots to shape what's emerging and those at the grass tops to be in relationship and proximity, some important things have emerged. And I wanted to today just share a few of those examples with you, along with one where there's an active process right now of grassroots to grass top sense making around what measurements can be done. But before we get to measures, we happen to steward a process, a federal, non-federal community, grassroots to grass tops process for measuring well-being of people, places, and systems. One of the things that we learned immediately from communities, and that we could see immediately as we analyzed power in systems, is that one of the x-axis to all of this work of shift has to be an understanding of how we got here, and in reclaiming both of the legacies of harm that led us here, and not from a place of blame and shame, but from a place of knowing that we all have the choice to be better ancestors today. That is, we cannot affect what others have done before from the context, but we can correct inequities and we can build on and strengthen and reclaim where we chose to do something well. And I think that both are important, to be honest about how we got here and to use our power and privilege to chart a path forward together that is a path toward renewal. A second part of that is acknowledging how much, and we saw that with Puna's wise words, how much is left behind when one dominant view has prevailed. But the harm of inequity isn't just to those who have been oppressed, it's to all of us, because we lose the ancient wisdom of not just what it means to protect 80% of the biodiversity of the earth, but the ancient wisdom of how we relate to the earth. And that act of coming together in shared stewardship for that to truly create well-being and equity in the world has to be done from a place where we don't ask those who are experiencing inequities first to change. We begin by changing ourselves. And that means we begin by transforming from within in our own understanding of these issues, in our own reclamation of both our own personal history, but the history of our families, the history of our communities, the history of our nation, the history of our world, in a way that helps us get together in proximity to transform together to be in relationship together, to restore us to ourselves and to restore our social contract and to create the space where those who experience inequities, whose pieces of the puzzle that's needed for the healing of the world may be getting left out, for those pieces to come in and be part of what we need for the collective healing of the world. And on that, only on that basis can we truly understand what are the outcomes that need to shift and what is the basis. So over the last several years, we've been in a process of a living collaboration from the grassroots to grass tops to continually ask what needs to change. How do we understand that? How do we make sense of that with stories and data, building processes that are both about transforming ourselves with data and tools to help us to do that, that are about understanding where we're doing well and where we're not, from a humble process of learning and improvement in ourselves and self-accountability, to a collective process of getting to identify what measures matter and how stories of experiences can be used to map systems and to use to then interrupt as we look at the bright spots of where those systems have been interrupted to change the system. I wish I could share with you what this has meant for us, because as we've looked at what it means then to restore the vital conditions, to reclaim a narrative of abundance, what we've seen is that communities have what they describe as it's about being restored back to themselves, restored back to their sense of agency and possibility, and the sense that we together have what we need to create real change. And so in 5 minutes today, I don't have time to go over all of the technical details. And I was so, Stuart, as you were coming, I almost wanted to bring, here's a system, here's our system thinking mapper and the well-being economy, but really that's not ultimately what matters most, is that we have the courage to engage in a process of mutual healing, of understanding that we too are harmed when we exist in a context that doesn't allow each of us to be fully whole, that we've grown whole economies on a presumption of adversity and an expectation of profit from that adversity. And that if we're really honest about what it means to not be extractive, we have to own what it means for us all to change in a way that's guided by those perhaps whose voices have not had the space, the room, the joy, the opportunity for leadership to guide us in this. And so for us, that it's that process of reclamation that is the real power. I would be remiss if I didn't invite any of you who are interested to vote. There's been a process of communities suggesting what new measures matter to them around healing racial justice and generational well-being. And all of you are part of community, and we invite any of you to do that. But as we go in this process, really the thinking about how we as a field develop a discipline to measure how we change ourselves, even as we work to say, how are we collectively changing the world? That's the invitation that I have for you today. Thank you.